Welcome to another edition of the Mo Show Live, everybody. Hey, I'm Morris Lilienthal. I'm super excited about today's show and today's guest, Rick Karle of WVTM 13 and Birmingham. I'm really looking for some positive vibes right now, some good stories and things to talk about, some positivity. And Rick brings that every day on social media, and I know he probably brings that at work every day too. For those of you who don't know Rick, and most of you do, Rick has been in the television and sports broadcasting world for, I think now, Rick, over 30 years. And going to talk a little bit about
close to 40,
close to 40. Okay.
Not that I'm
So,
aging myself, Mo. I mean, come on. I mean, no,
but
39.
we're going to talk a little bit about Rick's broadcasting history, and then for a lot of my friends, Rick, when I was mentioning and shared some stuff on social that you were going to be a guest, everybody talks about love and following you on social media, and so I want to talk to you a little bit about your passion for social media, and I'm probably going to sneak in a sports question or two because I know that's your background.
Okay.
But Rick, how are you doing today? Thanks so much for taking the time.
I'm good. Like we were saying during, when we were getting hooked up today, it's just different world out there, man, with this coronavirus thing. A couple of weeks ago, like, yeah, we're poo-pooing it, and yeah, whatever, and it's a China thing, and all of a sudden, bang. So we'll touch on that in a little bit. No, but I'm good. I've been at Channel 13 for about 4 months now. Great folks, great graphics, great set, talented people. So I'm excited about that. So after 39 years as a sports anchor, I've got 3 months as a news anchor. How about that? So
Yeah, I
career.
want to ask you about that. I know you were probably, when I grew up watching you at your other station, you were a 10 o'clock p.m. guy. What's it like being a 4 a.m. guy?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, well, 39 years being a late shift guy. And then the 13 folks came to me last summer and said, hey, listen, would you like to do the morning show? We might be interested in talking about it. And I said, well, my first thought is, oh, boy, that's right. I mean, that's different. So it's fun. Look, my kids are gone. I either in college now, so it's me and the wife. My wife's an attorney, so she kind of does her own stuff. Look, Mo, you're married for 35, 36 years. You kind of do your own stuff, right? You give each other space. So look, I can go to bed at 7 o'clock at night, which I do every night, and then I get up at 2:15. And so, boy, I'm out the door at 3. I'm at the station at 3:15. I'm on the air at 4, and I'm done at about noon. So, I mean, look, it's not heavy lifting. It's a great station, great reputation, great company, Hearst Broadcasting, major player in broadcasting, and I'm having a good time. So I've lasted 3, 4 months getting up at 2:15, and why not 3, 4, 5 more years, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Mhm.
Just a little bit, Rick, about, you said you've been doing this coming up on 40 years now.
Mhm.
Where did what's your background? How did you get into this? Was this something that, as you were growing up that you had an interest in, or in college that you had an interest in? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into sports and television broadcasting.
Well, I grew up in Syracuse, New York. My dad was in the grocery business, moved us between Syracuse and Buffalo and over to New England, Hanover, New Hampshire. And obviously playing shortstop for the Yankees didn't really work out for me. I was a drummer. The Aerosmith gig didn't work either. So I majored in journalism at the University of New Hampshire. Couldn't get in a television class in 4 years, so I did a lot of radio. I did some play-by-play. I did some color analyst. I was a disc jockey, and I did a lot of stuff like that. And I graduated with a journalism degree with no TV background. So it's
Really?
May, it's like May of 1980. Okay, so long before you were born. So anyway, or whatever. So
I was three. I was three.
you were 3. Okay, so you're 3 years old, and me, Karle, I'm looking for a job. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, look, I got to find something here, maybe radio, maybe TV. I call ESPN, and they're about 2 hours away from the University of New Hampshire, where I went. And ESPN had just gotten on the air. And I called there and I said, hey, this is Rick Karle. I'm looking for a job in broadcasting. I hear you're a new sports network. And the lady said, I'm sorry, sir. We've already hired one person to be an anchor, Chris Berman, and we're hiring nobody else. Good luck. And she hung up. So I thought, well, okay, they got Berman. This network's never going to work. Bristol, Connecticut, give me a break. So I went local and I found an NBC station in my hometown of Hanover, New Hampshire, which a tiny little TV station. It's owned by Hearst now, ironically, that owns Channel 13. But I got the job there. I went up and I told the news director, hey, listen, I'm going to be in town the next day. Can I stop by and just talk to you about a sports gig? Because they had a sports job open. And I had done some sports things on the radio, hockey and basketball, et cetera. And, so I had some sports background in broadcasting, but not much. So I kind of fibbed about the fact that I was going to be in town the next day. Long story short, I called a friend and said, I got a sack out on your couch, man. I got to be at this NBC station in the morning. So I walked in and I read some copy about the Red Sox. They gave me the job. for $10,000 a year. Spent 3 years there, moved to Jacksonville, Florida at the CBS station, spent 6 years there. At age 30, I moved to Birmingham, and I've been there here for 31 years. So, long story short, I kind of talked my way into that job. I did have the journalism degree, did not have the experience until I walked into that TV station at age 22. So that's the
What
story.
a what a cool story. Hey, if you'd just
Yeah.
been a few minutes quicker, you might be Chris Berman.
I could be, or I could be, we go, hey, is Carly the guy that goes back, but no, like, so who knows, CNN had offered me a job about 3 years after that. I was 25, so it was 1983, and CNN was just getting on me. And they said, well, you can come down and do those headline sports. Years ago, they had guys just voice the highlights. And, but Jacksonville, Florida was offering me like 20 grand more a year for an on-camera position. So I stayed local. And it's been good to me. Yeah, so here I am. You know.
Well, like as I told you before we jumped on live here on Facebook, I grew up in West Alabama watching
Mm.
you, sports gig for all those years, and hoping you would give a shout out to our high school.
Did
But
we ever?
a few times, yeah, you did.
Oh, I did.
When you're
Carrollton. Woo!
when you're a 1A high school, you don't get a whole lot of shout outs, but
Yeah.
I've heard such great things about you, and what enjoy, as I said earlier, watching you on social and doing. Um, and you seem like you're so genuine about what you do, and you're having fun, just like we're doing right now, chit chatting and doing. I'm curious, how are you the swap over now to the more of a television journalism than just a
Hmm.
specific focus on the sports? How's that going? And are you enjoying that? Is that kind of scratching some new itches for you and some new interest for you?
I really am. They're just two different genres. I told my wife if I knew the news was kind of this smooth, 30 years ago, I would have went into news. As a sports guy, look, it's tough. Anybody doing local sports in America, my hat's off to you. Especially in media markets like Birmingham, you're editing your own stuff. You're writing your own scripts. You're doing your own graphics. You're lining up shoots. You're picking up the camera yourself. You're fighting with the assignment desk to try to get whatever covered while you go shoot Sanford. You need the UAB women's shot or whatever. And then the high school thing is a whole different ball of wax. We can talk about that a little bit if you want. But, news is different. It's more serious, obviously, but being on the morning show is good as opposed to the evening news anchors don't give you as much opportunity to show the personality. The morning show does. We got some great anchors in the morning. Stephanie and Karle. I worked with Eunice for 2 or 3 months before she moved on. So the morning show is kind of in my wheelhouse. I don't want to age
Yeah.
myself, but I could maybe I could be the Regis Philbin. They're the guy in the morning. Yes, I can believe it. Well, it's raining out again. So far it's been a lot of fun, despite getting up at 2:15 in the morning, like we already talked about. But boy, they do a great job at 13. Robotic cameras, the set, the graphics, the producers are top notch, and it really is a pleasure to work at a station like that because they really know what they're doing.
It's I've had the opportunity here in Huntsville to go and go local television stations, and the technology that you guys have now is just unbelievable. And
Oh,
I can't imagine, talking about coming out in the early '80s, the change in technology that you've seen from then to now. I mean, think about what we're doing right
yeah.
now.
Oh, it's crazy,
At
isn't
your
it?
house, and I'm sitting here, and we're essentially got our
Yeah.
own mobile broadcast studio going on compared to
Hmm.
what you would have done, when you first started out. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I remember when I started in 1980 at that little NBC station in New Hampshire. You had it's called a TK-77, an old camera, and you had the tape that you put into the big deck, and you'd carry the big deck around with you, and the batteries. And my then girlfriend used to carry the batteries for me to get into games free. She was my producer, and later became my wife. So there you go. So I guess she was my producer, right? We had two kids, and everything's going. So anyway, no. So and then that one got you. So you fast forward to today, and you look at all the stuff. They put the video now on these cameras on these little SD cards, and you've seen these. You probably got them in your camera. My kids have it. So really amazing what technology has done. The video you can take in just a small Canon camera. Your iPhone, that iPhone that you carry in your pocket. This stuff shoots better video than any of those cameras that I carried around 30 years ago ever did. So I know the young people, I sound like an old guy here, but those oh, these young people don't appreciate it, but they should because the technology today
Yeah.
and the video quality of not only still pictures but video is just simply amazing. So you're right. We've come a long way in about 3 or 4 decades for sure.
Yeah. It's pretty neat, and it makes
Mm,
things much more accessible. And I'm sure it makes, you know, makes some, in a lot of ways, it makes things easier in
right.
world. Although, a lot of times you're not the first one to catch and cover a story sometimes and do. And that kind
Right.
of brings me to an interesting, as you kind of alluded to, we're going through some crazy things right now in our country and our world. What is this like to try to get your hands around as a television journalist? Trying to cover this from a television broadcast perspective to give your audience some perspective on it and stay on top of it, because this story, Rick, is changing every minute.
It really is. I mean, it's tough. Who'd have thunk that we would be in a situation where most broadcasts, newscasts, nationally and locally, lead with a death count or lead with a positive coronavirus test count. I mean, this is how many in the world. This is how many in Alabama. It is kind of nasty as that is. It's necessary because we look at that and we go, "Holy crow!" I mean, it opens your eyes. Now, our job at 13, instead of we throw you the facts, but we try not to go negative, 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 negative. You've got to bring some levity to you too, and especially in the past week and a half. And I've got some of this on my Facebook page. We'll talk about this momentarily, but young kids doing good deeds for their neighbor. A lady from Springville taking her kangaroo off her farm and walking that kangaroo around a retirement home in Aniana, Alabama, so all these senior citizens could look out the window and look at a kangaroo. I mean, you think this is crazy 10 years ago, but what people are doing and how they're stepping up, I think, is really kind of, in a way, gelling us a little bit more. I think they're making us feel better. So bad news, good news. Long story short, I think we have an obligation to do what we're doing, but at the same time, we try not to lay it on too heavy because people really need hope. They really need positivity these days.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think we need, as the old television show, "The Facts, Just the Facts," kind of says Joe Friday. I think you need
Hmm.
that. But at the same time, people are scared, and people
Right.
need some positive reinforcement, some positive lights, and encouraging people, within their comfort zone to do things to give back and help others. And I know, a lot of schools are doing
Right.
this, but my wife's school, they're doing Facebook Live twice a day, reading, having elementary schools reading to kids, different
Oh, cool.
administrators
Great.
to the schools. So
Mm.
they're trying to find ways to do that. And you see these stories that others are sharing and you're sharing, of people helping in their community, and hearing stories of companies who may produce one product have now found a way to stop and transition to produce, respirator masks.
Right, right, or
And
ventilators
so,
or whatever. And what
yeah,
the teachers are doing, we talk about how much the kids miss school and what about their education, but these teachers, I mean, they don't do this stuff to get rich. They do it because they love these kids and they love teaching and they love changing people's lives. And I'll tell you, I don't care how old you are, you always remember some of your teachers. Oh, fifth grade teacher. I had a crush, Mo, in third grade on on Miss Bunker. Oh, she was the greatest look. But again, I remember that because not only in my eyes was she, I was like Kevin on the Wonder Years, like hey, but not only that, but she made an impact in my life because she was kind and she was warm and she taught me. And we all remember teachers. So what they're doing and what they have done with these kids and what they continue to do creatively in social media and online and things like this, don't forget those folks because they are missing it just as much as the kids are.
yeah, I agree. And there are just so many people, unsung heroes right now. Certainly our people in the healthcare community are doing a great job, but you have all the people that are kind of like, your friend that you share a lot, that I enjoy seeing updates on, your buddy that works at Publix.
Yeah,
You,
Joey.
you've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
you've got those little local heroes that are in all our grocery stores stocking shelves and doing things. Those people are making it happen right now, and they're putting
Yeah.
themselves out there and at risk to make sure that we've got food and drink and all those kind of important things to kind of keep the wheels going while we all try to push through this crisis.
Yeah, they're really. I mean, you mentioned Joey. Joey Hale's 43 years old. He's, I guess you could call him special needs because he does need some help. He's had 7 brain operations, had some accidents as a kid. He was in Publix the other day. They got him. out in the front of the store with a big bucket of Clorox and a rag. He's wearing gloves, obviously, but he's wiping down the handles in every buggy that comes back from the parking lot, and he's smiling and talking to people. And this guy, I mean, a guy like this, half of us will go, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting near that. Are you kidding me? I'm not going home with Corona. So look, people like that who step up, okay, and have a smile while they do it are to be
Yeah.
admired, and those are the folks we're talking about at this point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Before I want to transition to chit chat a little bit about your social media and stuff, I did want to ask with regard to the coronavirus and how this is impacting sports. And this is a back burner issue. There's no doubt about it. It's
Right.
more about, the lives and saving lives and keeping people from getting sick and getting back to normal. But as you mentioned a few minutes ago, trying to keep some sense of levity and some sense of normalcy there. A lot of people are still talking sports and doing
Hmm.
I know it's probably hard to predict if college football is going to get started back on time, but I'm curious. Let's just assume it does, Rick. What are your thoughts on if the lack of spring practice is going to have any effect on what the product that we see when they get back on the field?
Yeah, well, I think it will, as far as perhaps not for us, but for coaches it will. Now, here's the thing. Here's if I was a coach, not that I am, okay, but if I were, this is what I'd tell my guys. We missed spring practice. Say, look, we missed spring practice, but guess what? Everybody else did too. It's like it's like the old saying, hey, it's pouring rain today. I hate playing. Well, guess what? The other team is playing in the rain as well. Or an IndyCar race, they drive in the rain. Well, I don't like the rain. Well, 42 other cars are driving in the rain. So I think that evens the playing field. Will it hurt them as far as execution is concerned? A guy like Saban probably pull his hair out, because any coach, Malzahn, Dabo, you practice, you practice, you practice, and then obviously something happens or it doesn't. That's the stuff that spring training gives you. Not only that conditioning and the studies and the whole, but it gives you a chance to get those plays, that playbook into your head and not make a mistake when you carry it over into August. So yeah, the play a little bit sloppier, but to you and me, look, when Alabama runs out on the field and they're about to face those Auburn Tigers, I don't think we're going to notice much difference there.
Yeah, I agree. It's just to think of the nature of everything that we're dealing with, and the size and the enormity of all of this, with it
Hmm.
canceling, the NCAA tournament, and
Unbelievable.
my son and I went to the Wednesday night game, Rick, the SEC tournament. We actually were
Oh,
in
did you? Okay.
at there, and we pulled in and heard the news that they were
Oh,
canceling fans for the NCAA tournament, and we wondered if we were going to be able to get in to the game, and we were pulling in the parking garage, and lo
oh,
and behold, we attended the last live SEC event probably for the spring,
yeah. I
and
mean that's tough. I mean,
crazy.
the Alabama game was called what, 7 minutes before tip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
This is crazy. Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. Our guest today is Rick Karle of WVTM 13 in Birmingham, and we've been talking about Rick's almost 40-year here
Hmm.
history in television broadcasting and sports journalism. And now I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk to Rick a little bit about social media. And, a lot of my friends, Rick, and people, follow you on social, and a lot of people, interact and just love the stories that you share. And folks, if you not following Rick on social, I hope you will after this, whether you're in Alabama or not. Rick does such an amazing job of sharing human interest stories of the average person, as he just talked about, the young guy that works at Publix, or a
Hmm.
family friend of mine's daughter, Molly Bailey, and her struggles and some of the neat things that she's been able to accomplish in the last year or so. And, Rick, I guess I want to start with, where does your passion for giving back and using your platform in television share these stories come from? What drives you to share these positive things out?
I think it's just a human reaction. Like your mom and dad probably told you, be kind to people. And when you do good deeds, you feel good about it. Like, take, for example, Christmas. Like, I'm an old guy, you're a semi-old guy. We get a pair of socks, we get a shirt. Oh, that's nice. But what you really get a kick out of is if you're going to give your wife or one of your kids a really special gift and you're so excited about that and it feels so good to you. You feel better giving that gift than you do receiving the pair of gold-toed socks, right? So, I mean, it goes back to that. And here's my philosophy on Facebook. Twitter's a little bit different animal. Twitter, I'm a little bit wiser. I'm a little bit more combative. Twitter is sometimes, a lot of times nasty, can be very kind. Facebook, I think, it is more for us to maybe pontificate or to share good news. And I think good news is a good thing. And I think, hey, what kind of dog you got? Is that you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what kind of dog you get?
I've got a miniature Dachshund. Yeah.
Oh, I got a dachshund too. Isn't that funny? Okay, Opie is 13. But anyway, I think if you stay positive, I think people will react to that. And there's so many stories out there. It's cliche, but everybody has a story. I went into Subway about 6 months ago, and there's an older guy. He's a balding guy, a former, big strong guy, and he's wearing this U.S. Marines cap. And I'm thinking, this guy's got a story, right? Everybody's got a story. You've got a story. Oh, I've got a story somewhere that we can relate to. So I said, hey, Rick Carle, and he recognized me from TV. So what's your name? I forget his name now. But I said, hey, tell me about yourself. So I sat down and had the sandwich with him. He's from Pennsylvania. He went into the Marine Corps at 18. He won like a Purple Heart. He moved down here, retired, started entering bodybuilding competitions. He was like the former Alabama State bodybuilding and later weightlifting champion. This story, it read like Forrest Gump. I'm thinking, here's a guy I met at Subway. I'm eating a bologna sandwich with this guy, and I've got a story there. So the point there is, I think, everyone has a story, especially senior citizens, older people who have simply lived longer, who have had more time to maybe mature and be able to talk about whether it's their pain or their joy or their grief or their excitement. And look, you just never know where the story is. Those are the kind of stories I like to share on Facebook, and people really respond to them because let's face it, look, I'm a news guy, but I'll be the first to admit that, news is negative a lot. I mean, it's, this murder and that murder and now coronavirus and oh, we're all going to die. And it just gets so tiring. And then you go on Twitter and people are bashing everybody politically and personally. And it's just, I think there's room out there for nice news. And hopefully, I'm sharing some nice news with y'all. So that's it.
Well, I can tell you that from my personal perspective, I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's just great to hear,
Hmm.
and asking for words of encouragement, for somebody who's struggling, a family or a person who may be going through some personal battle, and then I love hearing the follow-up stories that you share of how they've improved and maybe some triumph that they've had, and you're often sharing some of the behind-the-scenes stories there. Of some of the athletes that you may have interacted or you followed and covered over the years, and I enjoy that. I'm curious, where do you get them from? Just as simple as maybe sticking your hand out and saying hello to somebody at Subway, or people messaging you information with some of these stories. Where are you getting these stories that you're sharing out?
A lot of them are sent to me. A lot of them are messaged to me. And as you build your base, I think more people reach out to you. But I'll tell you, more than half of them I just get by snooping around on Twitter or Facebook and like the one that I've got at the top of my page right now, Rick Carle, WVTM 13. Cheap plug right there. Go to it now. But anyway, one right there at the top of the page is this little girl named Abigail, whose picture hugging Tua Tagovailoa kind of went viral, and it was at a autograph show, I think at the BJCC, or no, it was up in Huntsville. It recently, just before Tua went to practice for the NFL draft. So anyway, I look at this picture, and all you could see with this picture of this little blonde girl, she's about 10 years old, hugging Tua, and I think Tua tweeted it out, and was the back of her head. Okay, so my question was, I thought, okay, who is this girl? There's a story here somewhere, okay? So I know what happened there. I think her mom tweeted it out. So I direct messaged her on Facebook. I said, can you call me? And she called. I said, okay, tell me more about your daughter. She said, well, I didn't even know her name. I said, Abigail is whatever. It's on my Facebook post. I think I wrote this a month or so ago. But she said she's like 10. She's a special needs person because shows signs of autism, and she was waiting in line for an autograph and couldn't wait any longer. She was getting tired, so I had to take her home, and she didn't think she'd get an autograph or anything from Tua. And all of a sudden, I looked down, and Abigail's making a beeline. She's running right toward Tua and jumped on Tua's lap, and she was crying because she cries when she gets excited. And Tua hugged her, and so I said, well, I'll tell you what. After learning of her story, okay, I got a great story there, right? Okay, now I need to know what Abigail looks like. All we saw was the back of her head. So mom sent me all sorts of pictures of beautiful Abigail. So my post was, I'd like you to meet the girl in the picture. And
Yeah.
the story was based on, okay, who was this girl and where's she from and how did this all go down? And that was simply being, I guess, with my reporter background, is finding out where mom was, calling the mom, asking her some questions. It took us 10 minutes and then writing the post. So a lot of that is seeing posts and saying, okay, what's the inside story here? You know what I'm saying? What's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the inside what's the inside story of Jalen Hurts visiting the Tim Tebow Night to Shine event in Tuscaloosa? I mean, he just didn't stop by. He's got to have a connection there. So you'd call a mom, or you call Najee Harris stopped by one of the Tim Tebow things a couple months ago. So I found the mother. She sent me pictures of Najee with her son, learned what her son's issues were, and posted that. So it's a little bit, you got to work at it a little bit. You got to make the phone calls to find that. But I think it's a combination of people reaching out, offering me a heads up, or B, just me seeing something and saying, okay, there's got to be more than that. There's got to be a story there.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think
Yeah.
what I take from that for people, if you're just average everyday Joe citizen like me,
Mm,
maybe if you've got a second or take a second,
yeah.
and when we're not social distancing,
Yeah.
and ask people about their story. If you're in line somewhere like you are, I mean, certainly it probably
Hmm.
helps you, Rick Carly, that you don't seem so creepy when you're asking them about that. But
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but I think I try to do that. I don't know that I do that as often as I should because I think you're going to make a connection like you're doing, and you don't necessarily have to share it out on social like you're doing or
Yeah.
dig in even more that you do. But I think just speaking up and talking to people and asking more about their story, I think you'll find more and you'll make connections that you probably didn't know you could if you just speak up
Oh,
and ask
it's
ask a little bit.
it's unreal. It's unreal. Two examples real quick. I keep dropping my mic here. Two examples real quick. I don't know if you know Matt Coulter. He's a longtime sports broadcaster, sports anchor
Yeah,
from down here, but he was raised in the Huntsville area, I think. So anyway, I heard that Matt, when I was out of work for a year, they put a non-compete deal on me before I went to 13, so I had to sit out for a year. So I had lunch with him just to catch up with him, and I found out he's got prostate cancer. Oh, you gotta be kidding! Great guy. So then I find out that his wife, who happens to work at the public supermarket that I go to, has had breast cancer. So I start talking to her, and she says, "Oh, Rick, by the way, we've had a rough year. Matt, prostate, me, breast, and our nephew, 5-year-old little girl, has leukemia." I go, "Oh my gosh." And we're complaining about our lives. And here they're going about their day, not complaining, trying to get by, raise their kids. And so I said, "Look, why don't you think about it? When you're ready to send me a picture of the three of you together, and when you're ready to tell your story, you call me and I'll tell your story." And that's all I said, and I didn't bug them. About 3 months later, they called me and they told me their story. See, so that's one way to get him. You kind of put that in there. Now, here's another one that was just yesterday, I think, posted. Okay, I mentioned the couple that owns a farm in Springville. They have like the 20 chickens and cows and horses. Well, they took a kangaroo that they've got, okay, on their farm to meet to carry around this retirement home where people go watch them. So I got to find the story of the kangaroo. I mean, I just don't want to post. Isn't it nice that the kangaroo from Springville visited these senior citizens at a retirement home? There's got to be a story. So I found him. I said, right. So I called her yesterday. She's great. She's talking to me. Her husband gave her the kangaroo as a Christmas present in a red sack. She opened it, thought it was a rabbit. A kangaroo jumped out. Okay, so now this kangaroo hops around the house, following the couple everywhere they go. It sleeps in a pouch hanging from the dresser. It wears Depends undergarments because it's not house trained, and it will eventually grow to jump 20 feet long and 6 feet high. And see, that's a story where instead of just posting about the kangaroo saying, "Isn't that cool?" Well, let's find the real story about the kangaroo. So if you're ever doing Facebook posts and really want really good interaction, instead of just putting up a picture and saying, "Isn't this cute?" maybe you say, "Okay, call the mom and find out what little Johnny likes," because you might find out that he might have just beaten an illness, or he might be excited about Santa, or there's a story behind every story. So just dig a little bit deeper. I think that's my lesson there.
I think that's a great lesson for, especially for any people out there watching that are looking to go into journalism,
Mm.
broadcast or print journalism, and doing. And I think it's great just in the average person, but I really think that's really neat. Rick, I want to be mindful of your time. I did want to hit at the very end here a few rapid fire fun questions, kind of
Uh-oh.
get your response on a few things here. Over the years, I know you've had the privilege to interview, and I think you're buddies with Charles Barkley, and you got to interview
Hmm.
Kevin Saban and a lot of sports celebrities and other celebrities, I'm sure, for that matter. But is there one that sticks out? What the most memorable interview or somebody you were most excited to speak to?
When you're younger, you're nervous about everything. Bobby Orr, the great hockey player, when I was 22, I got a chance to interview him, and Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan. I did a couple one-on-ones with him when he played baseball here.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
yeah, Charles Barkley is just great because everything he gives you is good. Nick Saban has been to my house 3 or 4 times for this Karle's Coffee House thing we used to have on Fox 6 when he'd come over. We'd bring Feinbaum over and go live on the morning show. So he's been over for breakfast. So that was pretty cool. Spent all morning cleaning the house to make sure I wasn't embarrassed. But he's over there. Then he invited us over to his house for about 3 straight years, and we tore up the Saban's house. So that was very, very memorable. But I think if the one person, if I was really nervous about, you get sometimes, I'll tell you, Muhammad Ali was pretty big. That was, he
Oh,
had some
wow.
Parkinson's then, but yeah, it was years ago. And, that was big. I was a little bit nervous, but it came off good. Um, Tom Brady, I've interviewed after he beat the Eagles in Jacksonville, in the Super Bowl a number of years ago. I ran out to the media tent right after the game, and you have a 10 or 15-minute cooling off period after any game. So the NFL did that, but they had all the podiums set up with their names on it. So I ran to the front of the podium, and son of a gun, Brady comes out after the Super Bowl, toweled off and walks up to the podium. He was about 5 minutes early. And so all these reporters weren't even in the tent yet. So I said, what the heck? I'm going to do it. I didn't get the okay from the NFL, but I went for it. So I had Brady alone for about 3, 4 minutes asking him questions, and then all heck broke loose and I was swarmed under. So, I mean, you got Barkley, you got Brady, you got Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal. I'll tell you a really funny story real quick before we go. So I'm doing a profile on Barkley. Oh, Jack Nicklaus. Oh, I'll tell you a story about Arnold Palmer too. Let me give you the Palmer story and the Barkley story. First, Barkley, we're doing a
Yeah.
profile of him over at TNT in Atlanta. So I said, what goes on in that show? NBA on TNT. It's so much fun. So Barkley says, come on over. So we went over. We were covering the SEC tournament at the Georgia Dome. So we went over to TNT, which is over by Georgia Tech. And we went in there, and there's a big viewing room in there. Barkley says, oh, come on, guys. So me and my photographer went in, and we walked into this big viewing room with all these monitors. And we walk in, and Barkley goes, hey, Rick, you know Shaq, right? And I go, oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, how you doing, Shaq? Trying to be really cool. He goes, Rick, yeah, you know Magic, right? Oh, yeah, Magic. I've been talking to Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, and Shaquille O'Neal. Unbelievable. You know Kenny Smith. So I'm trying to be really cool, and I'm just dying inside. You know what I mean? So after the night, to shorten this, we spent there 2, 3 hours profiling the show and did a couple nice pieces on it for Channel 6. And at the end of the night, he says, okay, what are you doing right now, Karle? It's like 1 in the morning. I said, I'm going back to Birmingham. I'm exhausted. He goes, no, we're going out drinking. We're going to go have some beers in Buckhead. I said, no, 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 no. You're going out to have some beers in Buckhead. I'm not going to. So anyway, he goes, come on. Shaq's got to go back to L.A. Magic's, he's wimping out. You're going out with me. I said, no, I didn't. So anyway, I said, I got to get back. I got to carpool the kids to middle school the next day. I just pictured myself being arrested with a bottle broken over my head, hanging out with Charles. So I declined. I went back to Birmingham the next morning. I told my wife that after we got up, and she goes, what are you doing, you idiot? You didn't go out drinking with Charles Barkley? That's really funny. So anyway, real quick, this Arnold Palmer story. So I used to work in Jacksonville where the Players Championship is, big golf tournament out at the TPC. And we were looking for a live guest for the 620 show, at 620 Sports at night. So I run down to the driving range down there at the Players Championship. There's one guy on the driving range hitting balls. There's Arnold Palmer. So I said, excuse me, Mr. Palmer, would you, it's about 5:30. I said, we're on in about 45 minutes. Could you come up and join us live for the 620 Sports guest? He goes, I'm going to hit balls for 20 minutes, but I'm staying across A1A at Sawgrass along the ocean. You bring the satellite truck over to my condo. I'll go live with you. So I go hauling butt back to the satellite truck. We moved the satellite truck, all the cameras, the cables. We found his condo. He goes live with us at 6:20 live. in his patio out there. Arnold Palmer next to us is great. I said, this is the greatest sportscast ever. At 6:30, at 6:30 he's picking up. At 6:30 he says, okay, what are you doing tonight? I go, well, I'm off the late show. He goes, well, you're staying here. I go, you kid? He goes, yeah. He goes, he walks out of the kitchen. He comes back with a 12-pack of Budweiser and two big steaks. He puts the steaks on the grill. He says, you're staying for dinner. He cooks steak and beer until about 8 or 9 o'clock. I had a beer. I was driving, so I was good. So at about 8 or 9 o'clock, he's telling us stories in his patio on the golf course, drinking Budweiser and eating steak. See, that's a pretty good benefit of being in the broadcasting industry, because you get to do things like that. So just two examples there. I thought you might get a kick out of those.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. First, I'm in your wife's camp. I don't know how you told Barkley no what restraint you have.
Yeah, you know, I didn't want to.
Your wiser side probably prevailed there, but I don't know if mine would. And
Probably.
what a cool story about Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, and real quick, Michael Jordan too. He played baseball in '94. You know, here with the Barons.
Hmm.
And so every night I would they take batting practice from 5 to 5:15, and my sportscast was on at 5:20. So every home game at the Hoover Met, I would set up that camera. They let you right on the field. I'd set up that live camera right next to the batting cage. And every night I'd say, Michael, you want to go live with me at 5:20? Batting practice ends at 5:15. All you got to do is step 2 feet outside the batting cage and join me live. He goes, nope. I said, okay. Next night I did it again. Nope. This went on for like months. He goes, I never did it before Bulls games. I'm not going to do it before Barons games. It's just, I said, I'll tell you what, Michael, I am going to do this every night for every home game, and you're going to respect me finally so much, having the work ethic like you that reminds you of your own work ethic, that you will finally break down and join me live at 5:20. He goes, I'm not going to do it, but you can do it. Go ahead. So I did it all summer long. I did it. So anyway, in August, the season's coming to an end. I'm on Highway 280 and filling up my gas tank. Here comes a little yellow convertible. On the other side of the gas tank, it's Michael Jordan. Okay, Michael Jordan steps out of his fancy yellow convertible, starts pumping gas. I'm pumping gas on the other side of the gas tank. Now I'm trying to get his attention, kind of just say hi, see if he recognized me, you know, because I've been next to that darn batting cage all summer. So finally, we're just about to finish. We both put the nozzles in the thing, and you know, we hung them back up. He caught my eye between gas pumps, and he looks at me and goes, "Nope, I'm still not going to do it." So that was my brush of greatness with Michael Jordan. So anyway. Never did get him live, but he was nice. He did give me some interviews after games. But those are some of the things, the fun parts about being in the broadcast business.
I love that he stayed, he recognized you and stayed in character and had enough wherewithal and sense of humor to even get you at the gas pump.
Serves him right. No wonder he hit 200. No, I'm just kidding. He was a big guy.
I think professionally he made the right move, Rick. I think going back to the NBA and winning 3 more championships probably worked out okay for him.
Yeah, 3 more. I think it worked out for him. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I really do, you know, for all the positivity that you, even now more than ever, as we've talked about in the last half hour, that it's something that we need, and certainly we need to be mindful of all that's going on in our community and being safe and taking precautions to try to prevent the spread and flatten the curve, as they say. But it sure is nice to pick up the phone or your computer and read a positive story. And please keep those coming for us. And I appreciate you taking the time today, and hope you and your family stay well and safe during these scary times.
Well, thanks, Mo. You know, you've heard of no soliciting, right? Well, I will solicit here. So I'll solicit stories. You've got them. Facebook, Rick Karle, WVTM 13. Email rick.karle at Hearst, as in Randolph Hearst, Hearst.com. I'm not going to give out my cell phone, but you've got it. If you got anything, go ahead and pass it along. And like I say, be well. Keep it coming. If you need anything, Mo, you know where to find me.
Well, thanks so much, Rick. Folks, I'll tag Rick in the video here afterwards. So you can follow him on social, and I'll throw your Twitter handle in there as well. And so, folks, follow Rick on social, and take care, everybody. And Rick, thanks again for your time today.
My pleasure.
Rick, it's not letting me in the live stream, so I'm just going to end the call. Thanks so much, Rick.
Okay, good seeing you. Take care. Let me know if you need me.